You can go ahead, Nancy.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well, I'm going to kind of keep it short and sweet. We've kind of we started out the morning talking about IEPs, starting from when your child is young all the way up to transition. We've heard a little bit more about transition planning. And now when it comes to education, we're kind of at the tail end of a child's potential educational career. And that is maybe considering college for a child. And that is exactly what Kate is going to talk to us about today. And she's literally from Think College and is the director of the Think College National Coordinating Center at the Institute for Community Inclusion, which is housed at UMass Boston. So I'm going to turn the mic over to her and let Kate pick up and share any other information she wants with us about herself and her role at Think College and get us all thinking college for our kids. Kate, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much for that nice introduction, and I'm glad to be here with you guys today. I do plan to talk with you for the next little while about post-secondary educational options for students with intellectual disability. I'll tell you a little bit about where I work and what we do there. Hopefully describe, for those of you for which this might be new, the basics about college programs for students with intellectual disability. And then I'll talk to you a little bit, given that this is a policy makers, partners in policy making event, I thought I would focus a little bit of time on policies related to higher education for students with intellectual disability. And if there's time, and then I'm happy to take questions throughout. Please interrupt at any point to ask questions. I want to make sure that the content is what you guys were hoping to have. And I also have a few slides about preparing for college, noting that today you were sort of talking about transition as well. So if we can get all of that in, we will, but I will just get started. And then, like I said, please let me know if at any point if you have any questions. Are people just unmuting and asking questions? Is that how we do it in this session?
We've had a little bit of both, and some of them put their questions in the chat. And
well, if someone could monitor the chat for me, then I might not be able to. I might not take a look there, so I want to make sure that I get those as well. But if it's Nancy or someone else, if there's questions in the chat, feel free to interrupt and let me know what those are as well. Or not really interrupt, just stop me so I can answer the questions. So again, thanks for the introduction. My job title is the project director for the Think College National Coordinating Center. We're located at the Institute for Community Inclusion at UMass Boston. And I have been in that position for almost 12 years now, and have had the great pleasure of being involved in watching the field of inclusive post-secondary education really grow. And we continue to want to make sure that we do events like this where we can just get out, speak with families and students and other community members to make sure that people know what the options are and how to find out about them. And also to learn about us at the coordinating center, because we are a national technical assistance center. So we are happy to take questions or speak to people at any time. We spend a good deal of time actually talking to families who are looking for college options. Our technical assistance director for the center is a parent herself of 3 children with intellectual disability, and 2 of whom have gone on to college. So she's a great resource. And so we're here for you guys well after this brief session to answer questions that you have. So as I said, we've been funded since 2010 and providing technical assistance and coordination, working with a lot of colleges and universities around the country to help them to establish programs, to improve programs, as well as to raise awareness and help students and families learn about the college options, explore ways to pay for college, explore ways to make the best choice about a college fit, and all of those things. And we do a ton of dissemination. We publish multiple kinds of of resources. We have a monthly newsletter as well. We're very active on social media, but kind of the center of our work is you can locate it all on our website, thinkcollege.net. So I wanted to just start by telling you some of the basics of the college programs. And please rush me along if you guys are like, oh, we know the basics, we're good on this stuff. But I wanted to make sure there was a foundational understanding about what we mean when we say college for students with intellectual disability. So we maintain a database on our website of all the, someone is calling me and it's distracting me, I'm so sorry. We maintain a database of college options for students with intellectual disability on our website. And there are currently 309 programs that we have in our database. And we think that's most of them. There may be some that are not yet in there. We're constantly adding as we hear about new programs and as new programs get developed. But that's the current number, and the map here shows the numbers in each state. And as you can see there in Alabama, there are a total of 8 different options that you could explore. And there's actually a large number of these college programs are in the Southeast. So if you take a quick look at the map, you can sort of see that the southeastern part of the country really is the most active when it comes to offering these programs. So we're sitting in a good spot, and I say we because I'm from, I live in North Carolina. So we do have a lot of options in this part of the country. Okay, so the next slide will try to highlight that of those 309 programs, there are some different types that you might hear, some different acronyms that you might have been made aware of when you're learning about these programs. So there are one group we call it the TIPSID programs, which stands for Transition and Post-Secondary Programs for Students with Intellectual Disabilities. Those programs are funded by the U.S. Department of Education as model demonstration projects. That funding comes out every 5 years. There has been 2 full 5-year cycles, and we're currently in year 2 of the 3rd 5-year grant cycle for TIPSIDs. And in Alabama, again to bring it back locally, you have 2 funded TIPSID programs currently at University of South Alabama and University of Alabama. And they both have been funded as TIPSID programs since 2015, and were recently refunded in 2020. The next group of programs, and this is a really important category for families and students to understand, because these are called Comprehensive Transition Programs, or CTP programs. And these have been through an approval process through the U.S. Department of Education. And these programs can offer access to federal financial aid because they have been approved as Title IV programs. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about financial aid later on when we talk a little bit about policy that's related to this field. And then the third category that you'll see, and there's a few over 50 of these kinds of programs in our current database of 309. About 50 or so of those programs are what are called either dual or concurrent enrollment programs. Those are programs that serve students who are still in high school, typically that transition age student of 18 to 21, and often offered as a partnership between one or more school districts and a local college. And I believe I know that one of the programs at University of Alabama is one of those concurrent enrollment programs, working with the Tuscaloosa City Schools with kids in transition age. So all 3 of these kinds of programs exist in our database. We indicate which ones they are. Some programs are more than one of these, like for instance, programs can be both TIPSID programs and approved CTP programs. But there also are a number of programs that are none of these. They're not approved as CTPs and they're not TIPSIDs, but they are existing options. So just to get it a little bit confusing, there's a lot of different ways in which this is sliced and diced, but hopefully that's been helpful to understand that some programs receive federal funding to be a model demonstration for 5 years. Other programs are approved. If you see that indication that they're a CTP program, that means that students who go there are eligible to apply for federal financial aid. And then there's those programs that you'll see that are partnerships between school districts and colleges. Just to get, again, some understanding of how these programs, what they have in common. I think if any of you have already gone through college, your kids have gone through one of these programs, or you've looked at those, or you're familiar with them, you'll know that they differ in some important ways from each other. But what I have on this slide is to highlight the things that they have in common. Each programs, importantly to understand, is they have a unique admissions process and requirements for admission that are specific and unique to their program. So this is important to understand because sometimes when you first hear about college for students with intellectual disability, you'll think, well, that may not be for my son or daughter, or a person with a disability might think that's really not for me because I never took SATs, or I don't have a regular high school diploma. I don't know if I could really pass a lot of college courses, that might be really hard for me. The process that these programs use is different to admit students. So the program at University of Alabama, just as an example, has its own admissions process, and it is different from the admissions process at the University of Alabama generally. The students who are accepted into these programs are non-degree seeking students. These programs do not offer bachelor's degrees or associate degrees, but they do offer a credential. Often it's a certificate of some kind. And more frequently, we're seeing programs who are offering a particular industry recognized credential. So preparing students, for example, in CNA or childhood education, or other areas where there might be a credential specifically related to a particular career that the student might be interested in. The ones that exist right now do vary in length from 1 year to 4 years. The most common length of a program is 2 years in length, but there are a growing number of 4-year programs as well. They also vary in a very important characteristic of inclusion. And we try to capture that in our listing of college programs by indicating how much time students are spending in their academics and in their social activities only with other students in the program, so that you can get a sense of whether this program is truly including the student in very natural ways on campus and with individuals without disability, or if it's more of a separate kind of a program. Because to be honest with you, the programs do definitely vary in terms of that. But we at Think College believe that a fully inclusive model is the model that we're always espousing and helping people to attain. So we believe that those are the most valuable. Those result in the best outcomes for students. So we really work hard to try to support programs to get more and more inclusive. But you do want to look for that and ask questions about it too if you're talking to a program. As I already mentioned, students earn a certificate but not a degree, and they may offer federal student aid, which I've also already mentioned, and I'm going to give you a little bit more details in a few minutes. I'm just going to take a moment to take a breath and take a break and see if anybody has any questions for me at this point.
I had a real quick question. This is Jenny Lux.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi, let me turn my video on. I didn't realize it wasn't on. There we go. What I'm wondering is if a student with intellectual disabilities is accepted into a program, can ADRS cover such things as meal plan, books, even tuition?
Tell me, what is that? Is that a Medicaid funded disability?
No, ADRS is Alabama Department of Rehabilitation Services.
Oh, rehab. Okay, thank you very much. Vocational rehabilitation does pay for a variety of things for students in these programs. Coming at it from a national perspective, I would say that it varies from state to state, but it would be but there would be people there in Alabama. I can also look up what the current status is in Alabama, but it is very common for VR to cover some aspects of the programs. Sometimes it's a part of the tuition. Sometimes it's maybe a technology or other equipment that a student might need, or it may be helping with some of the employment aspects of the program by providing services. So it does vary, but it is something that I think you should expect. And so definitely ask about that in the state of Alabama.
You mentioned
Or
Medicaid waiver, though. Can it be covered by a Medicaid waiver?
That's another area that, again, varies by state, but we are seeing more and more of, particularly if you have, and I'm not an expert in Medicaid, you guys probably know more about it than I do, but if you have like I think it's called Money Follows the Person or community care waivers, and you have some self-directed funds, those are often used by students to help with the services and supports they might need in college. It's not likely that Medicaid pays for tuition. To my knowledge today, there's only one state where that is happening. But there are a few states where Medicaid is helping to pay if the student lives on campus. But the most common use of Medicaid funds is to pay for supports. Okay, well, thank you for that great question, because it really, I actually, thinking about this presentation today, I didn't put in any slides about paying for college, but obviously that's hugely important topic. So I'm really glad you asked that question. And we can talk more about it too, but with other questions as well. So knowing now a little bit about the background of how some programs, how they operate in terms of being a non-degree program with an alternative admissions process that awards a credential, and that can be anywhere from 1 to 4 years in length. They also can be residential or non-residential programs. It's another way in which they vary. But the student experience that a student should expect in a program is that they would enroll in college courses for credit if they would like to, and they feel that that's going to be a good fit for them, or for audit. And what we mean by audit in college courses would be taking those courses, and by auditing, you're allowed to have some modification. If you're taking a college course for credit, you can't modify that course in any way as far as the requirements to earn the credit. But audit offers a little more flexibility in that regard, so students could have more of an individualized learning plan for that class or classes that they're taking. These programs also should be really focused on career outcomes. That really is the point of these programs as they were developed, very, very strongly based in thinking about these as a pathway to a meaningful career. So quality programs are going to have offering internships, hopefully paid internships. They may be able to offer your students work study if they're in that category of being an approved program for federal student aid, because work study is a federal aid program. And they should be helping students get paid jobs both on and off campus while they're in the program. We collect a lot of data with the model demonstration programs. It's one of the aspects of our work. And we definitely find, just as I think there's so much research to support that paid work in high school leads to paid work after high school, same here. And students who have an opportunity for real paid work while they're still in the college program have better outcomes in terms of paid work on graduation. We also really expect that students will be fully supported to be engaged in all of the campus life and the organizations that are available. To be in student government. There's here on my slides is my photos. You see a woman who was a manager of a basketball team, getting involved in athletics, getting involved in Greek life, student government, all the campus organizations and clubs is certainly a huge part of college for every kid. And we feel like that's really where some great learning and getting more confidence, more self-determination, more independence can sometimes happen naturally in those social occasions that are so prevalent on a college campus. And there is a focus within these programs to help students become more independent. if it's a residential program, of course, that's a wonderful environment for naturally learning those skills of any of us here on the call that either went to college ourselves or have sent kids to college to live in a dorm. It's a little sink or swim, and that's where they finally go, oh, I could see I really do have to do my own laundry, like mom's not here. I really do have to feed myself. So those can be great opportunities, but even non-residential programs will definitely focus on students getting more independent on moving around campus and learning independent skills of a wide variety while they're within the program. So these programs, as I said, we really at Think College we really believe in these programs being fully inclusive, that the students who participate in these programs, even though there are these differences that I highlighted, that they're admitted differently and they are likely not to be seeking a degree, that in every other way, they should be part of that college community, taking classes, doing activities that they want to do, hanging out, learning to be more independent, and learning about what their career goals are, and taking classes and having career development opportunities that help them to attain that career goal. So this is a friend of mine, Kenneth, he's on the right in the slide, with a fraternity brother of his, and he did Pledge of Fraternity at his college. And this is a quote of Kenneth's, and Kenneth is a wonderful, he's graduated a few years ago, but he just started his own podcast on advocacy. He does some speaking. So it's always been important to him to speak up for both himself and others with disability. And this is a quote from Kenneth on the slide, speaking about how being able to go to college is just part of inclusion. It's part of being able to live fully and do the things that everybody else gets to do. It isn't for 100% of students, but it ought to be, and I've been saying this since I've been doing this work for over 20 years, it ought to be a choice for everyone. That's what's most important to me. It'd be a choice, a real choice, a meaningful choice. And if that's something that students want to be able to do. So I'll pause again for any other questions. All right. Well, I will again interrupt it in time with questions, but I'll move on to show you. This is just a screenshot here on my slide that illustrates the excuse me, the part of our website where we have Think College Search. So as you can see, there is there's a map. It's a clickable map, so you can click on the map and automatically see a listing of all the programs in that state. But you can also search by state, also search by important program features like, does it offer housing? Does it offer financial aid? And once you select those filters, you'll get a list of programs. We give both a sort of a quick look on each program, and then if you click on the program's name, you'll get an extended amount of information about the program. We get that information by doing a survey of all the college programs every year. So we try to keep it up to date. Not every program sends us an update every year, but and we work as hard as we can to assure that the information that we have is up to date on our website. And I see someone raise their hand, so I'm happy to see if Daryl had a question.
Hey, Kate, it was just Nancy had as a post in the chat, and I was just wondering, and it says, how can a parent make the best use of K through 12 schooling, free up to age 21, and getting what they can from K through 12 before transitioning to Think College programs?
Excellent question. I will address part of that, I think, whoever wrote that in the chat. In that just a little while, as I talked about, I do have a few slides that highlight ways in which both parents and the school can work within a kid's IEP, as well as activities at home to help prepare students for college when they are those transition age. But these programs, it is not uncommon for students to stay in their high school or under K-12 until age 21. And then go into college at 21 or 22. That isn't uncommon. But what I think is really important is that those transition years be, if college is the ultimate goal, that to really be focused on IEPs during that time and experiences and supports that are truly preparing them for college, that it isn't just, 2 more years of high school or 3 more years of high school, but that it truly, the goal is be as ready for college as you can be and look for those experiences, those learning opportunities. The college programs are really, really good at, for instance, saying, here's, they don't want to highlight that the student has to have all of these skills in order to come, because their job is to help students learn those skills. But they will give you guidance as to, students do better if they have these skills, if they know how to use a cell phone, for instance, or if, if they can speak, talk about what helps them in classes. So there's a wide variety of things that you can do to prepare them while they're still in K-12. And it's really, really important. And that, again, is an excellent question, because it's really important to think about that and how you're preparing for college while you're still in high school. So thank you for that question.
Okay, it's one more. Do you want to address this one from Kim, or you want to move and then come
Sure,
back to the?
I'll do that, Daryl. You let me know.
Okay.
Hit me.
It's what experiences have you had with universities, including CTP grads, to graduate alongside their typical peers in the College of Blank ceremonies? What words can you give us to support the advocacy? We can't seem to get much feedback regarding the plans for graduation, and we have repeatedly asked for our grads to be included in the regular graduation ceremony, but things like not being included on the class-specific email communications, for instance, because of paper that credits indicate they are freshmen. So it's been somewhat difficult. The same CTP program hosts the local high school transition programs and utilizes the same campus. So the graduation ceremony has always been on the same campus, but separate. We believe our students deserve to be recognized at the graduation ceremony in the same way at the time as their diploma receiving peers, because they are college students and enrolled in College of Education. What advocacy advice can you give us on this?
Well, that is an excellent question, and one that I totally, and everybody I think college totally agrees with you that those kinds of things that's what I mean when I say an authentic college experience. They shouldn't, and going to graduation and being able to walk class, like you said, have been attending, they've been hopefully taking college classes. So it often is, I have to say, if something started multiple years ago, sometimes it is harder to change something that's been a historical experience. Like you said, they kind of always done graduation separate. That, in my experience, has been harder for folks than when they're setting up a new program and say, well, of course our students will graduate with everybody else. And it's kind of an expectation that they build in. But it isn't, I've worked with multiple colleges who started off with a separate one, but it is through advocacy that you go to, you get that changed. And in 2 or 3 campuses, at least, that come to mind right away, that advocacy came from their fellow students. There was a college in North Carolina that really wanted to do this, but they weren't being given permission to go to graduation. And it was the students that started a petition, got thousands of signatures from other students saying, these students are our peers, they belong on our graduation, we want them to come to our graduation. And they took that to the college administrators, and that was really impactful. So it's an organizing, it can be a grassroots organizational thing. But it does typically involve having to speak to administrators who maybe just don't understand that this is a college program, that it is a real, viable, and if you said CTP, so that means it's been approved by the Department of Education as a college program, and these students absolutely should be able to attend a typical graduation. So I think it's a great goal, and I think it is something that, you know, whether parents of students in the program can start that conversation, but yeah, don't give up, because I've known people that have worked on it for multiple years, but then they finally do get that permission. Other times it's a matter of asking the right person at the right time, going through the right channels, and then explaining your case to them. And then sometimes it happens more easily. So I hope that's helpful, and I wish you very good luck. And if there's anything we can do further at Think College, if you wanted to contact me after, send me an email or something, and we could offer perhaps more strategies, or get you in touch with other colleges who have had to do the same, which is to advocate for graduation participation, and what their strategies were.
Okay, and one more, I think, is, are you collecting data on the numbers in regards to students with complex support needs in the CTP model?
Well, the data that we collect data, detailed data from only from the model demonstration programs. So in our lab, it's somewhere between usually 50 programs that we're collecting detailed data on. And we do collect data on the disability types and that sort of thing. So we do have that data for those programs. But I will tell you what I think we see right now in those data, which is that students with complex support needs are not attending these programs as much as we would like to see. And I think that is something that this field really needs to grapple with, because it does seem that it's students who have perhaps less complex support needs that are being accepted. Part of it, I think, is the fact that although 309 programs sounds like a lot of programs, there's, like something like 2,500 colleges and universities in the country. So we don't come close, where it's like 6% or something of the colleges in the country that have a program. So competition, there are many more applicants than there are available spots in these programs. And unfortunately, I believe that is leaving individuals with more complex support needs out much more often than I would like to see. But I don't think I also think that it's preparation and really working within a college program so that they can see their way clear to how they could support the student, because what they want to be able to do is assure that the student is going to be safe and secure on campus. And sometimes I think they might need some help from families and perhaps other professionals who support those students to assure them that it is possible. So they may need some education in terms of that as well.
Okay, thank you. I hope that addressed. Also, what would your program ever provide tech assistance on the complex student issues to providers?
Yes, we do. So we do a number of things to try to help the field move forward and have the information that it needs. So we offer webinars where we have touched on that topic of supporting students with complex support needs. We have publications as well. So yeah, we try to do that. And if, for instance, a particular college program also were to reach out to us individually, we would provide individual support to that college program that wanted to know more about supporting students with complex needs.
And there was also a comment made that programs were found to be expensive. So are you able to shed a little light on that? Or?
Well, that's exactly right. They are costly. And like I said, I'm happy to, I can say what I know about paying for college. We already talked about a couple of other funding sources that people with disabilities are often eligible for. Both Medicaid and VR are something, voc rehab, that you want to take a look at in terms of helping the cost of programs. But it can be very, very daunting to look at the cost of the program, because it may have been something that a family didn't necessarily save for college. So they may not, or obviously may not have even been possible for them to do that. But even if it had been, they may not have thought of that as being something that their son or daughter with disabilities might be going on to college. So that always makes it even more complicated. The access to federal student aid is really important. So looking for programs that have that CTP designation is going to be an important piece of paying for college. We're always working, and when I get to policy, some of the places where policy work has been done, and in fact, in Alabama, you guys have, I believe, only place in the country where you have some VA benefits at the state level in Alabama. And we've been struggling to get VA benefits for students with intellectual disability attending these programs, a variety of different VA programs that support post-secondary education. But there in Alabama, you did have a legislative effort that did pass that said that the state level VA benefits in Alabama can be used. So for the students and families for whom that is relevant, that's a really big deal, because that can really help to offset the cost of college. It's that kind of work, I think, at the policy level, where you look for where is there funding for all other college students, and making sure, working with policy advocates and with policy makers to assure that students in these programs are also eligible for all the other scholarships or VA, VR, any of those other funding mechanisms that are available to other students in your state that are going on to college. I think the other thing that we talk about a bit, and this is sort of about strategies for paying, because the programs do vary widely in expense. And we don't have much control over that, to be honest with you. But as far as with strategies to pay, ABLE accounts have been, again, not going to be a great resource for someone who's already 18, 20, or in their 20s, right? But for younger students, I think ABLE accounts are going to end up being really helpful for helping to pay for college. But it certainly is, just as it is for any of you kids going off to school, how are you going to pay for it is certainly one of the biggest questions. And one of our goals is to assure that these students have at least the access to the same resources as all other college students. And then there are some programs that are just for people with disabilities, and advocating those, like VR, like Medicaid. And then there are some privately funded scholarship programs like Ruby's Rainbow that provides college scholarships for individuals with Down syndrome. So there are some pieces out there. In May of this year, I'm going to be doing a webinar on all of these strategies to pay for college, and I'm currently doing a lot of research so that I can be really informed about all the different strategies coming up through Think College. Okay, well, I may have, sure. Thank you so much for stopping with those questions. They're all excellent questions. So I did want to share with you a little bit about policy. I'm only going to spend a few minutes here, but I thought many of you may be very interested in the policy aspects of higher education for people with disability, intellectual disability. So this has happened. These programs were developed, or they started to develop in my experience in the 1990s. There began to be some grassroots efforts, and perhaps even before that, to offer the opportunity for students with intellectual disability to attend college. And at that time, and I was involved a little bit in those efforts, it was really kind of one student at a time, trying to negotiate with the college, find some people in college that would understand what they wanted to do, register for some classes. And that still certainly happens all over the country, where students just take classes at a community college or navigate and negotiate things on a very individualized basis. But the initiative that led to more programs, certificate awarding programs, a lot of that was really built upon by the changes to the Higher Education Act in 2008, the Higher Education Opportunity Act, for the first time ever, which this is an act that it's a very large act, and it has tons of information all about how different policies and regulations that higher education institutions have to follow. And for the first time, that act included students with intellectual disability. They had never even been mentioned before. So they're in 2008, and this is in fact the most recent. Seems like it's a very long time ago now, but this is still the Higher Education Act that we are operating under today. It has not been reauthorized as of yet. They keep thinking that each year, I've heard for about the last 3 years, it's going to be reauthorized, but it hasn't yet. So this is the one under which we are functioning right now. And it did a number of things as shown on my slide. It created this comprehensive transition program category that I've been talking to you about. And as I said, that is what provides, and it articulated how students attending those programs could have access to federal financial aid. It provided the funding for these model demonstration projects that I've been telling you about, as well as the coordinating center, of which I am the director. And that is also a grant project, but we have had that grant. We've been refunded. We're now in our third cycle, 5-year cycle of being a coordinating center. The Higher Education Act also acknowledged that most college programs, any program that's on a college campus, has been accredited either through institutional or program level accreditation. So they knew that it's going to be very important for these programs to be accredited. And we have been diligently working on the development of accreditation standards for these programs. And in 2020, we published a final set of model accreditation standards. So those are available on our website. And these are a great guide for families, we feel, to read those standards and see what ought you to be expecting as far as quality and as far as practices on a college campus. And for instance, going to the question earlier about graduation, our accreditation standards say students ought to be doing the same thing as every other student, including being able to go to graduation, attend the same orientation that other students attend, go to all other events, and have access to the campus and community the same way every other student has. So, and our current work is to try to create a mechanism by which programs could become accredited. So if you're in higher ed, or if that hopefully means something to you, it's standards. It's finally kind of a guidance of each program ought to be doing things this way. And I think that's going to move the field forward in a really positive way. And as I mentioned as well, it did support this data collection that the National Coordinating Center has been doing since 2010 as well. And so we have an annual report on our data each year. Our 2020 annual report is just about ready to be published. So that's great for those of you who are doing policy advocacy, like to have data to back you up. For instance, I keep using this graduation question as an example. We would talk about what percentage of the programs that we collect data from are students attending graduation. And that piece of data could be an important part of your pitch when you go to the college and say, look, say it's 85% or whatever it is, are going to graduation, and why aren't we among them? Why are we not doing it when other quality programs are? So those annual reports can be a very rich source of data to when you are doing advocacy. Just to give you a little more details finally about this financial aid access that I've been talking about. These are the criteria for students to be eligible for federal student aid. They need to be a student with intellectual disabilities. So the student has to have a diagnosis of intellectual disability. And they have to have financial needs. So for those of you who are familiar with federal student aid, such as the Pell Grant, you know that those grants are awarded based on financial need, that a family fills out that free application for federal student aid, or the FAFSA. And the awards of these types of grants are made based on that financial need. And students with intellectual disability have the same requirement to meet financial need. But what they don't require for students with intellectual disability, which are typical requirements for other students getting aid, they do not need to have a regular high school diploma. They do not need to be matriculating towards a degree. So those are two existing requirements that are waived for students with intellectual disability attending an approved CTP program. And then on the right side of the slide shows you the types of aid that they are eligible for. These are all grant programs. Or the work study program, of course, you earn work study dollars by having a job. But these are things that do not need to be paid back. At this time, there is, and I'm doing some research into this because there might be a little window open for student loan programs, but as a rule, the federally subsidized student loan programs are not included in this package for students. I'll stop there for a second, see if anybody has any comments or questions.
Yes, we do have one. What are some of the examples of the model demonstration projects you are funding?
Well, they're funded by the U.S. Department of Education, but we work with them very closely. Let's see, like I said, University of South Alabama, University of Alabama are both TIPSID programs, or these model demonstration programs. On our website, we have an interactive map that shows every TIPSID that has been funded. There's been a total of 123. And I did have a map of all the TIPSIDs in this presentation at one point, but then I thought I had too much information, so I took it out. They've been all over the country. So I guess, I mean, there's University of Central Florida. I'm just thinking of the ones that come to my head right away. In North Carolina, in my state, there's been a TIPSID funded at Western Carolina University at one point. There's been Appalachian State University. In South Carolina, currently, the University of South Carolina is a TIPSID grant recipient. Georgia State. So I'm just looking at the map now. Lipscomb University, Vanderbilt University, and the University of Tennessee. Looking at Tennessee, those have all at one time been TIPSID grant programs as well. So I hope that gives you an idea, but it is possible to go to the Think College website and go to the National Coordinating Center section of our website, and there's an interactive map, and you can learn all about all the 21 programs that have been funded as TIPSIDs at one time. We have a lot of programs. There's currently 25 grantees, and all this detail again is available on the site. But a lot of the sites they get the grant from the government, but then they send out money to other colleges in their state. So they sort of end up starting multiple programs within their state with the money. Some people do it that way and others don't. So
Kate, there was a clarity on that one. It may have been, are there any new models being looked at?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Maybe
Any new models that are being looked at? Veronica, do you want to shed some light on your question on that one?
Well, I guess I'm trying to, what I'm trying to say, I guess, is when you mentioned that the numbers are very convoluted regarding models that work for people with the most complex support needs. So, you know, you're seeing the numbers. It's the tips. It's been around long enough now, I think, to collect some good data on what's working and what's not. You know, I think I made a suggestion in there, and I know this is a state by state, but could there be any way to educate and train, you know, like the deans of these colleges on how to really look at, here's an example, tapping into the different colleges within the you know, pathways within the colleges, like your special ed students, your PT, your OT. How can we see that synergy working with being able to develop a way to communicate to the decision makers on these campuses that, for example, experimental learning and being able to somehow turn that into some type of accredited part of their degrees, so that
Well, you know what, Veronica,
you have a lab, you have an opportunity there to really, and then once these students graduate, they have the ability to take this. The only way you can learn from people with complex supports and complex diagnoses is to do experimental work with them every day. So how can we bring
that very
this?
much is part of, I would say, almost every program has close relationships with the students without disabilities, who are, sometimes it is those that are studying in fields that may end up working professionally with individuals with disabilities, OT, PT, rehab, special education. Those students are very frequently very involved in working with students who are attending the programs. Peer mentoring programs are very common and a very rich part of these programs. And I don't know, I may have overstated. I mean, students with significant, I guess it depends on what we mean by significant or complex. Students with intellectual disabilities who have support needs are attending these programs. I mean, that's who they're designed for. And there are very commonly those partnerships with other students on campus, because just as you said, Veronica, it's an incredibly good learning experience. I have to say, we do, again, we're a technical assistance center. We try to espouse best practices. And we want to make sure that those learning experiences are mutual in nature. And we don't want our students, college students with intellectual disability, to be subjects or clients. Do you know what I mean? We want them to be college students, and we know they need support. And I 100% agree with you that being able to be a peer, sitting in a classroom or at a basketball game or wherever else on your college campus while you're studying, to work with people with disabilities, to be able to see those individuals as your peers on campus is incredibly powerful. And to be able to utilize some of what you're learning in school to help those students be more successful on campus. There's been a decent amount of research and a few articles written by, particularly out of the occupational therapy, and talking about the partnerships between OT and these programs. That has been really interesting. Nutrition programs, nutrition students sometimes get involved. It is, like you said, it's a very synergistic way to learn from both sides. Both groups of students really get a lot out of that. And we do hope, like you said, that results in them having built capacity to serve students with more complex needs. I think that's exactly right. So I hope that was responsive to your point.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Veronica. Okay, so we're almost out of time. So I will just wanted to quickly point out again, just from the perspective of those of you who are interested in policy, there's been over close to 50 state level policies and legislative activities that and actions that have helped to support the development of inclusive higher education options. And some of these had to do with funding, providing funding. North Carolina just a couple, and I don't even think it's on my website yet because I haven't added it, but North Carolina, for instance, just put some money into the state budget that will provide scholarship funding for North Carolina students who are attending TP programs. And there are a few of those around the country as well. So it is another place to look to make college more affordable or to provide more funding, is to work with your legislatures and to their legislatures have been engaged in both scholarship funding, program funding, like getting more programs started with seed money. And on our website, you can search by your state to see what policy or legislation might have been discussed or passed. And you can look in other states as well. We have, I think right now, 48 different pieces of legislation that have been considered. We put things up that are both talked about in the legislatures as well as those that pass, so that people can see kind of what other states are doing in those regards. So I will take another break, but my next couple of slides, and if I just show them, I think I would have just perhaps the right time. But unfortunately would not have a ton of time for questions, although I'm happy to hang later, but I know you guys are wrapping up your day. But what I have for the next 2 slides is just highlighting some strategies that you can use. And this first one focuses kind of on what can be done in at home or with families. What can they be thinking about if they're interested in, if they think their son or daughter would like to go to college, and what kinds of experiences. So this list is not meant to be like a checkbox, like you have to have done every one of these things, but it maybe helps to frame some ideas that are helpful. And these strategies were developed by a transition professional who was working within a college program. So she was thinking about both transition age youth, and she was thinking about some of the demands of college life. And she identified these 20 opportunities. I can't remember, Nancy, if I already provided the slide deck to you. I'm more than happy to do that. This 20.
You didn't, Kate. That would be awesome if you could.
I would absolutely do that. And this document, 20 Powerful Strategies, is actually downloadable as just a document. On our website, we have a whole section of if you go to our homepage and it says students and families. And if you click there, there's a whole web page that's meant to be kind of an introductory place on our website for families. And you're going to find links to a lot of these resources. And this one is one of them. And then it might be helpful if I just show you my website real quick before I close. So I'll go to the next slide. These next few slides, I like these a lot. And I've been using these in the last few presentations with families. These are tools that you can take as a family or as a student to an IEP meeting and say, I want to get ready to go to college. So here's some skills that I would like to learn. And these can be used to sort of structure IEP goals. And all of these, I will credit my colleague, Dr. Maria Payawansky, who works with transition age youth in college programs, and does a lot of work in the K-12 system, and is the faculty advisor for a transition specialist program at UMass Boston. So she is a wonderful resource, and she created this list, which I think is nice and clear. It's like, here's some of the things that students are expected to do in college or will want to be able to do in college. And here's some of the ways that you can prepare in secondary school. So there's 3 different tables included in this slide deck. The first one was kind of about campus life and transportation. This one's sort of academics and how you can prepare for some of the academic learning opportunities that are going to be available in college, and how you can be more ready by doing some things while you're still in high school. And then this one's kind of about campus engagement. If students are going to want to be able to take advantage of all the fun opportunities, and there are some things, again, that they could be doing to prepare those. So I like the way this table that Maria has put together is tied to, here's what the college expectation is, and here's the preparation for that. Because a student can pick and choose which one of these things are most important to them at college. So I think those are really good resources. So this is my last slide, and this is just a quote from someone who we worked really closely with when we were first getting started. Sharon Lewis was the principal deputy administrator for the Administration for Community Living, and was a strong proponent within the federal government for the funding that started all of this that I was talking to you about earlier within the Higher Education Act. And this is really, I've been using this. This is something she said in 2011, and I've been using this this is a mantra for me and for those of us at Think College as we continue to strive to support programs to be as inclusive as possible. We want to make sure that this is not just another segregated special program, that they are not just subjects and beneficiaries, but that they are self-determined college students. And she gave a talk for us, and this was a quote from her talk, and it just resonated so much for me that I often include it just to wrap up where we are. So there's a lot of practicalities about college, and there's a million questions that families have. And I so appreciate how daunting it is to think about this and how many million questions you have, and thinking about your own sons and daughters and what their particular needs are. But I also just, it's an important movement that we're part of to make college, and, just to continue to strive to make it more and more inclusive, more authentic, and making sure that these students are really getting the respect that they deserve. So I thank you really so much for the time and all the fantastic questions. As I said, I don't have to rush. If there are further questions and you guys want to hang out a little more, I'm here. And if you'd like me to just give you a 2-minute tour of the website to show you where you can find more information, hopefully easily. But if you can't find it on the website, don't hesitate to email us. This is thinkcollegeta@gmail is our help desk. And we're more than happy to have you use that email, ask for resources, ask for help finding things, and we will get right back to you. We do a lot of emails back and forth to support people, but we also get on the phone and speak to people when they have questions. Whatever we can do to help, that's our job. So we're happy to do it.
Hey, Kate, this is Nancy. There
Nancy.
were two other questions in the chat. One of them actually was mine. But Jenny Lux asked about age requirements for the program. Is there an age at which typical Think College programs tap out? And then my question,
I wish I get to get these. I've got to get the data more clear in my head, Jenny. It is common to see programs say that they serve students from age 18 to 26. I am not sure why. I don't know how that really kind of started, but that I think it's an unfortunate thing. I don't like to see an upper age limit because for so many students, they may have, they just may not have had the opportunity when they were younger or whatever. But you do have to look for that. I don't have like I said, I don't have those data, like what percentage of programs do have an upper age limit. But interestingly, one of our great resources, you guys, that we can only take credit for like creating the platform, but we have a Facebook group for families who are interested in college options. And we administer the Facebook group, but the answers and the conversation all happens between families. It's really fantastic. And recently a family member asked about that, like, what programs are out there that don't have an upper age limit? And gee, I was really happy to see that, just in the Facebook chat, 10 or 12 programs answered like, oh, we don't have an upper age limit. So there definitely are many that don't. But you do want to check that out. And we do try to list that in our database or our college listing. If they do have an upper age limit, we ask them to share that so that you can see it. But it isn't uncommon to see 26 as that upper limit.
does anybody else have any other question for Kate that you want to throw in real quickly?
I'm going to just stop sharing, and just while we're wrapping up, I will just share my website. I'm going to had it open just in case we wanted to look at it.
Kate, Kim Spangler asked this question. How many programs co-host a high school transition program, a summer program, and a college program on the same campus using the same supports and services?
That is very rare. In fact, University of Alabama might be the only one that I'm aware of. And I know you're looking at a messy screen right now. I'm trying to clean it up. So yeah, that's I don't know that that's very common. There's there are some that have that have both a program for dual students who are still in high school, and then also they have a program for students once they leave high school. That's not that uncommon. But it's the summer program that's unique, I think, in that scenario that you just pointed out. So again, thank you so much for your attendance and your great questions. This is our website. This is the homepage of our website. This is the project that I work for, the National Coordinating Center. And you can see, Think College has other projects as well. But just to show you a few of the things that I was talking about, this is our section of the website. And here is the Interact app that you can play with that shows all the different cohorts, where all the TIPSed cohorts are. And if you go to this page, you can see a static map of the current grantees, as well as a list of current grantees and all past grantees as well. So for that person who is interested in that, that's where you see that on our website. So it's in the part of it, it's in the NCC section. And then for resources that help families and students, this is a new section, relatively new, Student Corner. So here's a section that's meant to be accessible and interesting to students who are thinking about college. So if your sons and daughters are looking for things on our website, this might be a good place to start. Or you may have students as part of policy making. I don't know who's attending today. And then this is the page on family resources that I was talking about, where you can download that 25 powerful strategies is here available in the section called How to Prepare. So this is all a very quick little summary of the page, but that's just some of the things that you'll be able to find. I will send Nancy my PowerPoint, and hopefully that will be useful to you guys as well.
Thank you, Kate. That's great. I'll make sure that we get it distributed to everyone.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right.
Well, it's been great, you guys. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you for asking such great questions. And I will look forward to hearing from you guys. If you have future questions for me, don't hesitate to reach out. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your program, your policymaking program. And I hope you have happy holidays.
And thank you for taking time out of your Saturday to join us. It was very generous and gracious of you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I'll leave you to it. Thank you so much. Bye now.
All right, bye-bye.